Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Jack Abbott had lived his entire life balancing a tightrope of power, loyalty, and legacy, but nothing in all his years battling Victor Newman, protecting the Abbott name, or keeping Jabot alive prepared him for the moment his darkest secret, one he had buried so deeply he sometimes fooled himself into believing it had never happened, erupted to the surface with a force that threatened to obliterate everything he held dear, and the unraveling began innocently enough, with whispers in the hallway, glances exchanged in the shadows of the Abbott mansion, and a growing tension inside Jabot's executive offices that even the most oblivious intern could sense, because Jack had been acting strange for weeks, pacing at night, snapping at Ashley, hovering suspiciously around Kyle, guarding his phone like it contained the nuclear codes, and even Diane, who prided herself on reading him better than anyone, had no idea that the storm approaching was far more explosive than any corporate sabotage, romantic betrayal or Newman feud. It was a secret that went all the way back to a night Jack had wanted to forget, a night tied to a decision he knew would shatter not just his reputation but the very foundation of the Abbott family itself, and the truth began spilling out when an anonymous email hit every board member at Jabot simultaneously, containing a single line. Ask Jack Abbott about the child he abandoned. The message spread like wildfire, electrifying every corner of Genoa City, igniting gossip at society, whispers at Crimson Lights and heated speculation inside Newman Enterprises, because the mere idea that Jack had fathered a child he hid for decades was enough to destabilize alliances, reignite dormant rivalries, and upend the entire balance of power among Genoa City's elite. Jack froze when he saw the email, his heart pounding, his breath trapped inside his chest like a prisoner, because he knew exactly what child the message referenced, and the guilt that had clawed at him quietly for years now rose like a tidal wave determined to drown him. Years ago, before the turmoil with Phyllis, before his chaotic romance with Nikki, before the constant battles over Jabot's control, Jack had been involved with a woman whose life descended into darkness, and when she became pregnant, Jack panicked, not out of malice but out of fear, insecurity, and the crushing pressure of being the Abbott heir expected to always make the right decisions. The woman ultimately left Genoa City, vowing to raise the child alone, but she later contacted Jack during a desperate moment, begging him for help, insisting the child was struggling, and instead of stepping up, instead of being the man John Abbott raised him to be, Jack convinced himself that the child was better off without him, rationalizing that getting involved would only stir up more pain, and he walked away. That decision, that moment of weakness, had haunted him in nightmares, in flashes of shame, in quiet moments when he told himself he would one day make it right, but he never did. And now the past had returned with claws. Kyle, already shaken from months of drama, manipulation, romantic missteps, and constant pressure, confronted Jack first, his eyes burning with betrayal, demanding to know if the rumors were true. Ashley followed next, tearful and furious, accusing Jack of being a hypocrite for decades of lecturing the family about honesty while harboring the biggest lie of them all. Billy, in his usual volatile style, lashed out, declaring that once again Jack had put the Abbott legacy in jeopardy while Billy himself was branded the family screw-up. Meanwhile, the Jabot board erupted into chaos as whispers spread that Jack had misappropriated company funds years ago to secretly send money to the child's mother. Transactions that now surfaced through a whistleblower, suggesting Jack may have compromised Jabot's financial integrity. Diane, who had fought tooth and nail to rebuild her image and her relationship with Jack, felt blindsided, horrified that the man she trusted had kept something of this magnitude from her, especially when she had been open about every piece of her own complicated past. Even Summer, still reeling from her own heartbreaks, privately wondered whether she could trust the Abbott leadership at all. And all of this unfolded while Victor Newman, smelling blood in the water, prepared to strike with the precision of a predator who had waited decades for the moment Jack's empire cracked. Victor called an emergency meeting at Newman Media, insisting that this scandal, if leveraged correctly, could weaken Jabot enough for Newman Enterprises to seize control once and for all. But the destruction didn't end with corporate chaos. Word soon broke that the abandoned child, now an adult, had arrived in Genoa City seeking answers, justice, and perhaps revenge, carrying documents, photographs, and enough emotional ammunition to devastate Jack, who could barely look the young adult in the eye without drowning in guilt. The child, now hardened by years of struggle, hurled accusations at Jack. Accusations of cowardice, neglect, abandonment, emotional cruelty. Accusations Jack, shattered and repentant, did not deny. As the accusations spilled into the public eye, Genoa City's gossip will hit maximum speed. Media outlets ran headlines calling Jack a liar, a fraud, a failure as a father and leader, threatening the Abbott name with humiliation so severe that even Diane wondered if their future could survive this level of scandal. And then came the biggest blow. The board moved to temporarily suspend Jack from his role as CEO pending investigation, leaving Kyle, Ashley, and Billy scrambling to hold the company together as investors panicked and rival corporations circled like sharks sensing blood. Jack's world cracked further when Nikki confronted him privately, disappointed that he had judged her past addictions, her weaknesses, her mistakes, all while hiding something so monumental. Phyllis chimed in next, partly gleeful, partly sympathetic, but undeniably intrigued by how this scandal could shift power dynamics in her favor. And even Gloria, never one to miss a dramatic opportunity, made her rounds stirring trouble, exploiting the vulnerability of every Abbott she encountered. Through it all, Jack found himself spiraling emotionally, haunted by memory, consumed by shame, realizing that he had spent his life preaching Abbott values while violating one of the most sacred. Family comes first. Meanwhile, Tucker McCall, always hungry for leverage, smelled opportunity and began investigating the abandoned child's upbringing, planning to weaponize every tragic detail to blackmail Jack, destabilize Jabot further, and elevate Ashley's role in the company, whether she liked it or not. Devon, caught between sympathy and business strategy, warned Tucker not to exploit the situation, but Tucker's ambition outweighed any moral hesitation. At the same time, Chance Chancellor, now taking on more investigative responsibilities, was pulled into the situation when questions emerged about those old financial transfers and whether Jack had knowingly violated corporate law. While Chance was reluctant to pursue charges against someone he respected, the law offered little room for negotiation once financial impropriety was alleged. Through all this, Diane struggled with her own emotions as she tried to hold their relationship together, her mind spinning with fear that Jack's secrets might jeopardize her newly rebuilt trust with Kyle, who was already angry that Jack had lied to him for so long. Kyle's frustration deepened as he felt forced into a leadership role at Jabot during a full-scale crisis, unsure whether to defend his father or distance himself to protect the company and his future. And Summer, still nursing the wounds of their broken relationship, found herself unexpectedly pulled back into Kyle's orbit, offering support even as old feelings resurfaced and complications grew. Then came the breaking point. A leaked document, sent anonymously again, revealed that the abandoned child's mother had pleaded with Jack for help years ago, detailing her financial struggles and emotional breakdown, and Jack's cold written response, drafted in fear, not cruelty, rejected involvement. The leaked letter hit Genoa City like a meteor, painting Jack as heartless, uncaring, and hypocritical, leading even his most loyal supporters to question him. Social media exploded, reporters camped outside the Abbott mansion, and protesters gathered outside Jabot demanding that Jack step down permanently. As Jack stood alone in the Abbott living room, surrounded by portraits of the family members he had failed, he whispered to himself, not in anger but in surrender, that maybe he deserved to lose everything. Yet, surprisingly, it was Tracy, gentle, compassionate Tracy, who reminded him that redemption was still possible, that the Abbott legacy was not built on perfection but resilience, and that the only way forward was honesty, accountability, and the willingness to face consequences head-on. Her words cut through the noise, giving Jack a sliver of hope even as his career, reputation, and relationships lay in ruins. But Genoa City was far from done with him. Victor, preparing his final strike, arranged a press conference announcing Newman's interest in acquiring a controlling stake in Jabot if the Abbott board failed to stabilize leadership, essentially signaling the beginning of a corporate takeover. Jack, for the first time in decades, felt powerless, caught between the wreckage of his past and the possible destruction of his family's legacy, all because of one life-altering secret he thought he could outrun. Now exposed, judged, and isolated, Jack realized the truth. He might very well lose everything: his company, his family, his love, and the respect of the entire town. And if he didn't fight back with honesty rather than manipulation, the Abbott name might collapse before his eyes. And as the chaos reached its peak, the abandoned child, hurt but not hateful, offered Jack one final ultimatum: publicly acknowledge them, make amends genuinely, or face a lawsuit and a media scandal that would finish what the leak started. Cornered, shattered, and with nothing left to hide, Jack prepared to speak publicly, knowing that the moment he opened his mouth, the future of the Abbott family would change forever. The Young and the Restless Y&R spoilers hint that Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, and Sally Spectra, Courtney Hope, may face total disaster if Jack Abbott's Peter Bergman shutdown backfires on his brother. At the moment, Jack doesn't see any other solution except to take Jabot offline temporarily. It's the only way for Jack to protect the family business and keep Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, from getting the AI program inside their system. Jack knows it's risky to force a shutdown for 3 months or more, but what else can he do? There are concerns about Jabot never recovering from Jack's tactic, but it's better than letting Victor make his move and unleashing chaos. Once Jack's offline strategy is in full effect, he may feel good about where things stand. Jack may think he's outsmarted Victor and bought himself some time to truly fight back, but there could be a big problem. Victor knows how to be patient and play the long game, but also isn't one to just sit back and let the Abbotts live in peace. Y&R fans know Victor has already been dropping hints about pulling the rug out from under Billy at the upcoming Abbott Communications launch party. Although Victor's plan to get Jill Abbott, Jess Walton, to pull the funding fell through, there are other paths to causing chaos. Adam Newman, Mark Grossman, might find one of them and create quite a stir at this launch bash. Then again, maybe the launch party will go off without a hitch and leave Billy on cloud 9 along with Sally. Just when it looks like Sally and Billy's business is off to a great start, Victor could hit them where it hurts. Perhaps Victor will respond to Jack's offline move at Jabot by unleashing the AI program on Abbott Communications. Victor might make sure the company never has a chance to even get off the ground. Maybe Victor could find other ways to target the people Jack cares about as well. It could be Jack's punishment for thinking he could truly gain the upper hand on Victor. Will Billy and Sally pay the price for Jack's bold move? Will Abbott Communications get obliterated after Victor uses the AI program against it? The Young and the Restless spoilers say Victor may have some vengeful news in store, so we'll pass along updates on any other mayhem for the Abbotts. The Young and the Restless Y&R spoilers hint that Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, and Sally Spectra, Courtney Hope, may be walking straight into the kind of crippling disaster that not even their combined ambition, charm, or creative spark can recover from, especially if Jack Abbott's Peter Bergman, bold and desperate shutdown strategy ends up delivering the exact opposite of what he intended. For days, Jack has been pacing the halls of the Abbott mansion and Jabot headquarters like a man tormented by ghosts, wrestling with the impossible choice in front of him: protect the family legacy by taking the entire company offline or leave the doors wide open for Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, to infiltrate the system through the stolen AI program and unleash devastation from the inside out. Ultimately, Jack sees no other viable escape route. The only option that allows the Abbotts even a sliver of control is to lock everything down, freeze operations, and essentially shut off the oxygen to the entire Jabot corporate ecosystem. It's an extraordinary move for an extraordinary threat, and Jack knows it. Taking Jabot offline for weeks, possibly stretching into a brutal 3-month dark period, could destroy momentum, public confidence, market trust, and internal stability in ways no Abbott has ever dared imagine. Even Kyle and Summer are rattled. Ashley calls it reckless. Diane urges him to reconsider. But Jack, trapped between two catastrophic outcomes, believes temporary collapse is better than letting Victor gain access to Jabot's technological heart. And yet, for a brief moment after the shutdown goes into effect and the final server goes dark, Jack allows himself to feel something dangerously close to relief. He believes he has outmaneuvered Victor. He believes he has bought precious time to reorganize, strengthen security, and counterattack. He believes he has protected his family. But what Jack fails to grasp is that Victor Newman is not a man who panics when a door slams shut. He is a man who finds a window, or breaks through the wall entirely. Victor knows how to wait. He knows how to strike. He knows exactly where to hit his enemies so they crumble from the inside out. And in this case, the weakest flank isn't Jabot. It's the glitzy, fragile, newly hatched dream project known as Abbott Communications. Y&R fans know that Victor has already been smelling blood in the water where Billy is concerned, and he has done everything short of personally flipping the switch to sabotage the big launch. His initial attempt, pushing Jill Abbott, Jess Walton to yank funding, may have fallen apart, but Victor Newman never stops at no. He merely recalculates. And lurking in the wings is Adam Newman, Mark Grossman, who has been teetering between reluctant obedience and simmering resentment, but who may ultimately reach a breaking point that pushes him into the exact kind of destructive collaboration Victor excels at engineering. If Adam decides to strike back at Sally for choosing Billy over him, or if he simply wants to reclaim his place in the Newman empire, Abbott Communications could become the perfect battleground for him to prove his worth to Victor while settling old emotional scores. This launch party, which Billy and Sally have poured their entire hearts and reputations into, could easily turn into ground zero for a Newman assault. Maybe Adam leaks information. Maybe he exposes internal documents. Maybe he drops a public bomb that tanks their credibility in an instant. Or perhaps the launch goes spectacularly well at first, with the entire room electrified by Sally's charisma, Billy's renewed sense of purpose, and the palpable spark of a new Abbott empire rising. Perhaps for just a few precious hours, Billy finally feels like he has broken free from his reckless reputation, and Sally feels like she has stepped into the spotlight she's always deserved. Maybe the toasts, the applause, and the flashing cameras give them the illusion that nothing can touch them. And then, just when the champagne is flowing, just when Sally and Billy share a knowing glance that everything they fought for is finally coming true, Victor unleashes hell. Because if Jack thinks shutting down Jabot blocks Victor's access, he has gravely underestimated the reach of a man who has conquered every business battlefield in Genoa City for decades. Victor could very well direct that stolen AI program toward Abbott Communications instead, sabotaging it before it even gets its first real breath of life. Imagine servers melting down mid-presentation. Imagine financial records scrambled, client information corrupted, creative files wiped, or worse, weaponized. Imagine chaos blooming in real time, leaving Billy humiliated, Sally blindsided, and the guests whispering about incompetence, scandal, and meltdown. Victor could destroy their new company before it ever becomes a company at all. And if Victor really wants to twist the knife, he may not stop at business sabotage. He could target Billy's reputation. He could expose old secrets or engineer new ones. He could push Sally into a PR nightmare so vicious she becomes unhireable. He could publicly humiliate the Abbotts so thoroughly that Jack's shutdown looks like the beginning, not the end of their collapse. Because in Victor's mind, Jack's decision to pull Jabot offline is not a protective measure. It's a declaration of war. Jack believes he made the smart move, but Victor sees only arrogance. Jack believes he prevented Victor's infiltration, but Victor sees an opportunity to make him suffer through his brother, through Billy, the child Jack is always trying to save, the wild card who always makes himself vulnerable, the Abbott who is easiest to destroy. And poor Sally, caught in the crossfire once again, may find herself dragged into a Newman-Abbott war she never asked for and cannot escape. Her company, her dreams, her hard-won stability, her fragile romance with Billy. All of it could be crushed beneath Victor's boots as collateral damage in a decades-long feud she never fully understood. If Abbott Communications is crippled before day one, Sally may spiral into panic while Billy sinks into a familiar self-blaming despair. And when the dust settles, Jack will have to face the sickening truth that his attempt to protect the family did the opposite. He may have saved Jabot temporarily, but in doing so he exposed Billy to a level of retaliation that could destroy him personally, professionally, and emotionally. The real tragedy is that Victor is not done, not by a long shot. Because when Victor Newman believes someone has tried to outsmart him, he doesn't just strike back. He devastates. He dismantles. He eradicates. And this time, Billy and Sally might be the ones to pay the most painful price for Jack's decision. Will Abbott Communications be obliterated before it even gets off the ground? Will Sally and Billy lose everything because Jack thought he could gain the upper hand? The Young and the Restless spoilers say the Abbotts may be heading straight into another catastrophic Newman war. One that Victor plans to win with ruthless, merciless precision. The Young and the Restless YNR, recap for Friday, December 5th, reveals that Claire Newman, Haley Aaron, will strangle Audra Charles, Zuleika Silver, in public before teaming up with Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, on her takedown. At the Abbott mansion, Kyle and Diane Jenkins Abbott, Susan Walters, will have a strategy session before he admits he's off to meet Claire. Diane will be excited at the prospect of Claire softening toward Kyle, but he won't want to get his hopes up too high yet. At Society, Claire will bump into Holden Novak, Nathan Owens, and decline to let him buy her a drink. After Claire reveals she's meeting up with Kyle, Holden will confront her about the distance between them. Claire will admit she thinks Holden is holding back about what happened with Audra. Since Claire will believe there's more to the story, she'll push Holden to spill. Audra will come along and tell Claire to get a life, so that'll launch another confrontation between them. After insults are exchanged on Friday's Y&R episode, Audra will slap Claire across the face. Claire will respond by lunging at Audra and throttling her, so Audra will gasp for breath and look stunned. Holden will break up the fight before Kyle arrives wondering what's wrong, so Claire will tell him to get her out of there. As for Audra, she'll bicker with Holden and make it clear that Claire's going down. At the GCAC, Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, will spot Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, as she's wrapping up a phone call with Victor Newman, Eric Braden. Nikki will be frustrated over Victor leaving her in the dark on what's happening in Los Angeles. Jack will ultimately offer some reassurance before talk turns to the AI threat. It'll take some convincing, but Nikki will eventually admit Victor is in possession of the program. Jack will also confess to Nikki that Jabot is shutting down, so they'll be in suspended animation as a defense against any attack Victor might carry out. Nikki will hate that Jack's dealing with all this and will suggest she'd yank the program away from Victor if she could. Jack will think that's a nice thought and will wonder if that's actually something Nikki could do. Nikki won't commit to anything, but she'll give Jack some hope about trying to help before she exits. Diane will also interact with Nikki briefly before sitting down at a table with Jack. After Jack updates Diane on his conversation with Nikki, she'll fume over him spilling their strategy to the wife of his worst enemy. However, Jack will defend his confession and hope that Nikki can either get the program away from Victor or at least prevent him from going after Jabot. Once Claire and Kyle arrive looking tense, Diane and Jack will speculate about what's going on. Kyle and Claire will have drinks as they sit at their own table, where Claire will vent about Audra looking for a fight. After Kyle wishes they could team up against Audra, Claire won't see why they can't. Audra's shady history in Los Angeles could be the perfect thing to use against her. Claire will get Kyle on board with the idea of joining forces to put Audra in her place, so they'll clink glasses as they conspire.